Ever since the launch of the motion picture of the Muttiah Muralitharan's biopic 800 was launched, there were lots of outrages, fury, anger, and lots of hate hashtags and trolls against Vijay Sethupathi for not being empathetic about the Sri Lankan Tamils issues. And also the prominent leaders of many organizations and the artists from cine industry also stood a stand against Vijay Sethupathi acting in this movie. At the same time, there were another set of people who say this is against the right of expression. We need to stand with the freedom of expression of Vijay Sethupathi, and he's an actor, and he has a right to choose his movie, and this has to be seen as an entertaining material. So there are lots of controversies, and following this, Muttiah Muralitharan, he released statements asking Vijay Sethupathi to take a step back from this movie. And Vijay Sethupathi also hinted in his social network saying Nandri Vanakkam, which means he's stepping back from this movie. So there are lots of arguments on this. There were the Muralitharan's cast was put forward, his political identity and political stand, Vijay Sethupath's political stand, and Sri Lankan Tamil people's issues, everything was involved. So we see that there are no black and white answer for this, but at the same time, it's very important for us to clear the air. So we have the leading member of Tamil Soldatis Youth Committee, Samanthi, here to discuss this. Welcome, Samanthi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So Samanthi, my first question to you is, Muttiah Muralitharan is a legendary cricketer, and he's an inspiring model to all the aspiring cricketers. And if this movie is released, it will be a good inspiring movie to the youngsters. And Vijay Sethupathi, a pronouncing actor, has opted to act in this movie in his biopic. So what's wrong with this movie?
So I think the reason the issue has captured the attention of the diaspora and Tamil people in general is not the fact it's not focused on Muralitharan as a sports star and Vijay Sethupathi as an actor, but the politics that Muralitharan has expressed in recent history. I think a lot of what people's anger comes from is his support he's shown for Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the Rajapaksa government, as well as a disregard for the struggle that the Tamil mothers were going through in Sri Lanka in a few statements. So in your question already, there's nothing technically wrong with the movie because, like you said, he's a renowned cricketing star. I think he holds a world record. And Vijay Sethupathi is an amazing actor. So yeah, the issue with the movie is much more the context behind the politics of these individuals. Even Vijay Sethupathi, he's shown some political affinity towards the Sri Lankan Tamils. So people are drawing out the hypocrisy in him choosing to act in this film.
So that's acceptable, but at the same time, what's wrong with this movie? So it's like the production house is claiming this movie is all about his sports life and his biography. So if you deny the right freedom of expression for this kind of thing, so how are you going to defend this freedom of expression here? Because everyone has a right to express what they want, and it's so even if the history of the Sri Lankan Tamils were portrayed in a way, maybe in a wrong way, also they have the right to tell that.
Yeah, and we have the right to critique them after the fact that they do. I think the main point is that considering we don't know what the film contains, we don't know the narratives that they're going to choose and the ones they're going to focus on. For us to prematurely critique, people are right to tell us that there's some censorship going on, because to some extent there is. Whether we agree with the opinion or not, we can't encourage the banning of art or the censorship of art, even if you completely disagree with it. So you're actually correct in saying that how can you defend this lack of freedom of expression, because it's difficult to. What we can do is call out Muralitharan's politics and the views that he's expressed completely separate to the aspects of a film. But if you're going to talk about it in the context of a film, you have to wait for the content that they're going to give us. The only sort of insight we have, because I know the directors have said that they're not going to aggravate Tamil sentiments and they're not speaking about the issue, the struggles too much. I think a British actor who was also offered the role said that they mentioned the Tamil plight and that's what made him uncomfortable. But right now, that's the only information we can go off. So for us to make our decision and fully criticize this production without giving it a chance to be created, it's fair that people question the freedom of expression.
That's right. And also, when he talks about the political stand of Muralitharan, in his last statement, he claimed that he has been giving many sorts of support to the Sri Lankan Tamils, mainly the Northeast Tamils. So, can you please explain the political stand of Muralitharan?
Right. So I think he's been saying that because as renowned as a cricket star he has been able to open up opportunity for young cricketers. Like, again, if you remove him completely from his politics and look at his career alone, he's probably a very, very significant individual to a lot of young people that are coming up in cricket and that look up to him. Separate to that, though, his politics, he lacks a lot of political clarity, and you can see by the politics that he expresses that there's somewhat of a lack of education. The politics that he's expressed is, like I said, support for the current regime. I think in a statement last year, he was saying how they have the Rajapaksa regime has helped the economy, and without them, the country was very stagnant. So that was a big thing that he emphasized. And also, he said something about being able to be to walk on the street safely now that the war was over, which is also a cause of the Rajapaksa government. So his politics, although unclear, he says that he supports Sri Lankan Tamils on an individual level, obviously through his cricket. And other than that, he supports what is good for the people. But like I said, because of the lack of clarity and also the lack of education behind those opinions, as we can understand that Gotabaya Rajapaksa's regime isn't beneficial for the entire country economically. It's beneficial for pockets of the country. And we, with more information, can see the struggle continued even after the end of the war, even if it meant that he could walk on the street safely. So I think his political stand is unclear from my understanding. But I don't know if you know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, adding to your comments, also he mentioned like 2009 is the best year of his life because the war has ended, and also he in his statement he mentioned he's from the oppressed caste or oppressed people among the Sri Lanka, which is like the Malayalam people. But if you see the Malayalam people history, they are the bonded laborers who are brought in a form of slavery from India to Sri Lanka. The Malayalam people claim their identity as Malayalam because they think that they have built the plantation industry in Sri Lanka, which is the tea industry is the backbone of the economic backbone of Sri Lanka. So they claim that identity. I don't agree with the point where Muralitharan claims like he belongs to that group. Of course not, because he's a trader from the India. Like he belonged to a trading community from India. So this trading community and the plantation workers from Sri Lanka, though they have the lineage of India, they don't belong to the same class, and he didn't represent the plantation workers in Sri Lanka, because the struggle the plantation workers have put forward in these past years, like even for hundreds of years, is enormous, because they were denied of education and housing, and still they are fighting for thousand rupees wages, and there are lots of protests put forward. But I don't see at any point Muralitharan has stood for them or defended their rights. Or okay, we see that Muralitharan has been in the high profile in the Sri Lankan government, and he's working with he's in all the feast with the Rajapaksa family, and he's attending all the feasts with the Rajapaksa family, and he's in a high profile. He has all sorts of opportunities to represent these people wherever he goes, but he he never represented him as Malayagam anywhere. I have never seen him representing. But when this issue came up, he is using this as an identity, and he is claiming about himself as an Malayagam from Malayagam, which is unacceptable. So, as you said, he's taking a hypocritical position here for his own benefits. This because I'm saying this because there are the people who support this rights of Vijay Sethupathi and Muralitharan's movie. They are putting forward this argument as people whoever oppose this are opposing because of his caste identity.
Yeah.
That's why I have to make this point very clear. This is not because of caste identity, because he is not never representing the Malayagam people.
Yeah.
And Samanthi, and when we talk about the movies that release in the society like this, how do you see the movie has an impact on the society, and how should the movie or whatever, any form of art, me being a book or whatever, how should it represent the society, or if the movie represent a wrong history, how it's going to affect the society?
Yeah, so firstly, I want to say what you said about caste is completely correct. And it's really, really important to emphasize that he doesn't represent the attitudes or the struggles of the Indian plantation workers that were in Sri Lanka. And when I was researching on it, I came across a lot of articles that went straight to the fact that they brought up there was discrimination of Indian Tamils in Sri Lanka. Even during the 70s and the 80s, they were discriminated against, and so people have tried to use that narrative to push forward why people don't want this film to be made. So just want to say I agree with that. And in terms of your question, art is a really art and politics have always had a really close link, but I would personally say that we've strayed quite far from the light in that regard in the modern society that we live in. Because when you look at the 60s and the 70s, the art was organic and it was politically driven, and that was like the origin source of a lot of art. And I think we've lost that in some regard. So to try and hold modern day art, books, films to the same standard, I think it's a little bit delusional, because we've got a lot further to go for our art and politics to be connected again. In terms of how it should be received, when the film comes out, the same way they had freedom of expression to create the film, we have freedom of expression to and freedom of speech to discuss it. And so if we feel that things are misrepresented, we are in our full rights to debate and put down the film in that regard, because the misinformation that can cause and the way that can fuel certain chauvinistic attitudes, it is very dangerous, especially considering that I think a lot of the Tamil youth, and speaking from the perspective of Tamil diaspora, we may not have connection with the politics, but there's definitely an affinity to the art and music culture that's in India, Hollywood, and etc. So it is actually really important that we pay attention to the details that they talk about in the film, and we pick out where the film has been inaccurate and the film is poorly portraying attitudes. But I think more so than that, the energy that has existed in chastising the film before it's been created needs to be channeled towards us trying to bridge back that link between art and politics, because there's organic struggles and organic movements occurring across the world, but especially, like you said, there are plantation workers still fighting for their wage rights in Sri Lanka. There's Tamils in the north and east struggling. There's the working class movements that are going on. There's the Dalit, basically genocide happening in India. There's so many struggles that are currently occurring, that using the amount of support and attention that this issue has received, if that could be redirected towards this, where valuable art can be created to remember the life of the normal person struggling in this current society, that would be the best way we can deal with it on the long term. So apart from the criticizing and being very vigilant about the information that this film puts out, because obviously being part of the industry, it is going to gain a lot of traction, we need to make sure the one way that we can, our one sort of form of leverage is our attention and our voices. And so we need to try and find a way to unite those voices to re-bridge that connection between art and politics. Because right now, I think people see celebrities as sort of the epitome of success, and so they follow celebrities' opinions and they expect celebrities to speak on political things and whatnot. But I think it's been clear for a while, and if it hasn't been, it should be now, that everybody's hypocritical and celebrities are no different, and then they're not exempt from that. Like most of these people, like even if you look at the normal individual, they will be quite hypocritical in their lifetime. It's hard to be a person of principle in the society that we live in. And ultimately, actors are working for wages. They're working to make money. And so they will feed into and be pressured by things that will make them make more money. And when it comes to political issues and things that are a little bit more morally binding, they know that by supporting it, they will gain more attention, they will gain more support, etc. And you could see it with like actors. I know Kamal Haasan in the 80s, from the 80s, he was supporting Sri Lankan Tamils and was against the Sri Lankan state. But although they had bursts of being active, there hasn't been, nothing has come out of it. And they've not pretended like they've been really disappointed. They've just sort of moved on. And I think that really has to be remembered, that these actors and celebrities in general, they lack so much political clarity that to look for them to voice our political struggle, one that they've really never been a part of, especially when you can look at Hollywood, you can look at the UK industry, and you can look at India as well. The way in which you come up in those industries is by knowing people, having a lot of money, and being able to dedicate time to become an actor, and have the resources to fund that. Most average people don't have those resources, and so their political opinions won't be expressed through these individuals. And so I think a big thing in terms of the normal person, they need to find their voices and move away from seeking their voices through these celebrities that are never going to really represent them with the political clarity that they show.
Yeah, that's right. As you said, the Asian has a culture of looking forward to their political understanding from the actors. They strictly believe that actors, whoever represent themselves in their movies, are gonna are the people who are gonna save them from all these crises they are under. So at the same time, we have to see that whoever is opposing this movie at now, let's say there is right-wing organization called RSS in India, which is like a backbone of the BJP government. But they have also opposed many movies like Padmavati, because they in that movie only the Muslim king has married a Hindu woman. For that reason, they have opposed that movie, and they have sent many threats. And now they are supporting the freedom of expression, which is like very hypocritical. And so there are many people, many organizations supporting and opposing this, but we as youngsters should understand what's their position before and what's their position now. And as you said, Kamal Haasan, who represents the Sri Lankan struggle in the late 1980s, is he still supporting the Sri Lankan issue now, or he has a proper understanding of Sri Lankan issue now, is a question to answer. So this is the culture of the Asians, which we would say like they lack political conscience, and they have to improve on this. All right. My next question is, when we say about critics, like how are you gonna make the criticism when a movie comes out? Which is the right way to show your criticism? Because as we are speaking, we saw like freedom of expression is a right for everyone, I'm afraid, okay, when the movie tells a wrong story, or when the movie tells a wrong history, how are you gonna like counterattack it? How are you gonna encounter this? Because the society is gonna consume something which is not true, and how are you gonna erase that one?
Yeah, I think firstly it's important to remember people are very reactionary, so we need to make sure that we're clear, even if you disagree with the movie, that there's a way in which you critique. I've been hearing about Vijay Sethupathi and his family getting threats and whatnot, and all of this, that kind of stuff, and you cannot condone that under any circumstances. And it almost doesn't make sense, especially if you're talking about the fact that they're not showing respect towards the Tamil struggle. I think it's completely ridiculous for you to make personal attacks on these people, whether it be Muralitharan or Sethupathi. In terms of critiquing it, because there has been a lot of there may be false information that people consume. That is difficult, but it's about being concise and being similar to what you were saying about consistency in opinion with actors. We have to show that same consistency, but with political clarity, because that is the one thing that none of you said there were two sets of people. That's something that these sets of people don't have, is political clarity, because you can find so many holes in their arguments and contradictions in the way that they've moved in the past compared to how they're moving now. So our counterpoints have to have the basis of political clarity, understanding that although you can respect what Muralitharan has done for the cricket world. I don't know much about cricket, but the impact he has made in that way, you have to show, you can't take away from the fact that he's an amazing sportsman. So in understanding that, what is separate to that is his political stand, the opinions he's vocalized, and the impact that he knows it will have on people by being so vocal about it. And so that is the aspect that we should be critiquing, pointing out what you were saying about caste showing more accurate representation of what the caste he's claiming to be and the caste he actually is, educating people better on the discrimination that Indian Tamils in Sri Lanka have faced, and ultimately focusing on the errors that they've made in the film to do with the politics, using that, harnessing that attention to redirect people to accurate information, or more accurate information about the struggle, also whilst using that opportunity to show people why they shouldn't put their faith in these actors, because over the period of time that he's been associated with the Rajapaksa family, how much has his political understanding of Sri Lanka improved, and how much has his work in Sri Lanka improved? And the fact of it is, it hasn't. So focusing on everything political and nothing else, basically, is the way that I see fit. And also, don't waste too much time criticizing the actors that are involved in it. You can make a mental note of, oh, this actor's a bit hypocritical, I don't really want to support him, but be realistic and mindful in your criticism, because ultimately, by chastising them, you're not going to gain anything, and they're not going to change the way that they're acting, because, like we said, they work for money and nothing else. So yeah, political clarity is basically the basis of our criticism. Yeah,
that's true, Samanthi. So on this discussion, do you want to give any other final conclusion on this?
I don't. I'm not too sure. I'm not. You know what? I think the main thing is, if this has like captured your attention, your focus, you feel some sort of passion towards it, then be serious about your feelings. So don't spend your time fixating on what this actor has said and that actor has said, and which actors haven't supported and have supported him. Use your focus to redirect yourself to the struggles that are happening right now, that you could actually be part in organizing and supporting, that will make tangible difference to the people's lives in Sri Lanka. Because although sentiment matters and the way that the war and the struggles are portrayed matters, what's important is the people right now and what the people are fighting for right now. Because there's no point protecting our history if we don't care about the people struggling in our present. So I think the main thing is to, if you do feel a way about it, there's nothing wrong with that, but understand that anger has different roots, and you won't find your solutions in a film. Basically, that's it.
Thank you, Samanthi. So, adding to the Samanthi's comments, I conclude in a way like, okay, we understand Muttiah Muralitharan as a pronouncing cricketer, and he's a very inspiring model to all the youngsters, of course. So, are we denouncing Muttiah Muralitharan because of his political stand? Of course not. The point too is, because of he's a very legendary cricketer, are we going to support his political stand with Rajapaksa being a stooge of Rajapaksa? Of course not. So this is like this is not something black and white we have to see, and we need to take a right stand. Of course, we wholeheartedly accept him as a sports person, but we don't support on his political argument or whatever he however he sees the Sri Lankan Tamil people issues. So about this movie, they have the production house or Muttiah Muralitharan or Vijay Sethupathi, whoever it is, they have their right to release this movie, or the Vijay Sethupathi has a right to act in this movie. We don't deny this, but the critics can be made only when the movie is there, and when the movie is released, we can create a counter product, or we can write, we can talk about it only once a movie is released. Until then, we don't defend the ban at any point in our this banning shouldn't even the books or movies, whatever it is, they shouldn't be banned. Everybody has a right to expression. So that's how we have to conclude this. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining with us. See you, and thanks Samanthi for your time, and see everyone until next time. Thank you.